Hello there, and welcome to another exciting episode of Transformers 84 to 24, 40 years of rolling out, with myself, Oddimus Prime, and my fantastic compatriot, Primetime Moff. Hey, Moff.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. We've reached 2006, which was not our
Exciting.
target. Aha, target 2006.
See what you
See
did
what
there.
it's
See what you
yeah,
did there.
yeah, that was good. So as you know, every week we cover another year of the 40-year history of the Transformers brand. And as I say, this year we are up to 2006. So whether you're listening to us or watching us on the YouTubes, I hope you enjoy this episode. But please like and subscribe and join us every week. Well, every week we manage to get a recording done for another exciting episode. And we will be sprinkling in various special episodes along the way. But 2006, lots to talk about in 2006, way more than I thought there was going to be. But let's get cracking straight on so this video doesn't end up being 3.5 hours long. So
Well,
first of all,
that's 2007.
it really is. But we've thought a little bit about that. So we're going to, in the 2007 episode, we're going to talk about the toys, and even that we're going to have to skip through a fair chunk. And although we will mention that there was, of course, the film, we are not going to talk too much about it because we have a plan and an idea for a way to incorporate that later on this month. So stay tuned for an exciting extra thing, assuming we get it recorded. So, in media, we just had the final 20 odd episodes of Transformers Cybertron, and that was it for content in terms of visual content this year. Because, of course, we were in a holding pattern, as it were, because the next really big thing for Transformers was going to be the live action movie that actually went into production in May of this very year. It had been mooted about forever, and various people had got involved, but a couple of producers managed to persuade some film companies to actually put the money in, and then they managed to get Michael Bay on board and Steven Spielberg, and it was all very exciting. And yes, again, we'll talk more about that later. But the interesting thing about the movie this year, as a bit of a film buff and quite enjoying sort of following the production of things, there was lots to actually get in. Well, I say get involved in, but there was lots of the media about, and we were at that sort of period where sort of things getting leaked onto the internet and set pictures and stuff like that were becoming more and more of a thing. And one of the producers, Don Murphy, actually sort of headed off some of this in a little bit, and he had a blog that he used to run where he would sort of drip feed information out to people up until up until everything went a bit pear-shaped when all of the leaks started happening, which was sort of around July, August. Do you remember any of this stuff?
Yes, I remember the leaks. I remember, just the sheer excitement for the fandom. And I think this kind of same as we felt, we talked about, when Armada and stuff comes in, and it's like, oh, this is exactly what I expected to be. I think there was still a wee bit of that when it came to the movie. I
Mm.
think the first one had, well, when we'll talk about it when it gets to it, but it probably got an easier ride than some of the other ones to an extent because it was just like, oh my god, we're seeing Transformers the big screen. But I just remember is this actually happening? Are we actually getting a Transformers film? And to think that is, 2006 is the last year that we, before we had the Transformers movie
Mhm.
universe, which has became one of the biggest film franchises, like financially, like you cannot underestimate the value of it. And one thing that surprised me when we're looking through this and we're getting to this point, we're getting to 2006, there's a lot of people talk about how, like it or not, the Transformers movies saved, not saved the franchise, but reinvigorated it.
Yeah.
From what? Because it has so much toys before 2006. The toys, and how many toys have I said to you in the last 2 or 3 episodes where I'm like, I've never even seen that. Oh my god, there's so much.
Yeah.
That it's frightening. Compare it to when we were in the last rows of G1, kind of G2, and you and I were sitting and we were like, there's 3 slides and there's 12 toys. There is 12 toys in our first slide that we're going to discuss tonight, and that's not even a mainline bit. There's so many different bits. So I don't know how much of that's actually true. Don't get me wrong. I do think it has absolutely helped the Hasbro seeing how it needs to be invested in properly. Like I'm not going to deny it, but unlike Beast Wars, which I do believe kind of saved the franchise, I think if Beast Wars hadn't came along and they kept going with what they were doing, franchise could possibly have went down a Thundercat, maybe not a Thundercats, maybe more Turtles, which would go through spells, or look at your T-shirt He-Man, which it has its peaks and then it kind of falls away again. Then it had its peaks. Transformers could have went there, so that, I believe that, but the bit about the 2007 movie, I'm not sure. I believe that the volume of, and we'll talk about comics in a minute as well, the volume of media in terms of cartoon, comics, toys, it's frightening actually to see how much was there before 2007. But we'll talk about that in detail in the movie year, I guess.
Yeah, I think lines like Cybertron and Energon and Armada really helped bring in a whole new flock of fans. And we've fully admitted that it wasn't necessarily our cup of tea, but it is a lot of people's cup of tea, and it is a lot of people's. I've got some fairly good friends who are got into Transformers via the Unicron Trilogy, watching it on Toonami or Fox Kids or whatever it was on at the time. I forget what channel it was on, but seeing the episodes, getting into it, going out and buying the toys, and that was their G1, and that is one of the really beautiful things about Transformers is that every new couple of years there's a new G1, as it were, for somebody else to get into, and it will be their thing, and they'll discover the old stuff, and for whatever whether or not they think it's the best thing since sliced bread, like G1ers do, is down to them. And when we get to the movie, obviously that's a whole different thing. Even though a lot of people know what Transformers is, but it wasn't just Transformers fans that went and saw that film. It was people who were just interested, and people and kids, and it became it didn't. You're right. I don't think it reinvigorated the line, but it did open it up to a much wider audience than possibly it might have continued otherwise. I mean, again, look at He-Man. You had He-Man in the early 80s, and then you had the New Adventures of He-Man in the late 80s, and then nothing.
New Adventures is just He-Man G2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cost me the spade. Like, it's G2. That's what could have happened with G2. Like, it could have just went like New Adventures, where it didn't really land, and then nothing. Whereas Transformers reinvigorated with Beast Wars, and I think that's why people often talk to me about why Transformers. I was like, because the line, whilst it stays true to its core of G1, right? And that is there is no Transformers without G1. So, whatever you think about any aspect of it, the most important, and arguably, the most important bit is G1, because it's a foundation. G1 doesn't happen, then the rest doesn't happen. G1 was the perfect storm, perfect time. It wasn't the first transforming toy. GoBots obviously was, but Transformers annihilated it, because every aspect of it was in synergy. I'm currently rereading the Marvel stuff with Bob Budiansky, and it lands so well. The cartoon lands so well. The toys are outstanding. But every couple of years you get a new kind of breath into the toys. You get a new kind of cartoon. I'm into the near end of season 2 of Airspark with my youngest, and he's loving it. With the last version of RID was my Jamie's, it was his G1, and he absolutely loved it. And still to this day, he has toys from that toy line on his shelf that he's like, I won't ever get rid of these because they're just brilliant.
Yeah.
And actually, I think they are. And so I think there is a pure beauty in Transformers that it does reinvent itself, but still stays true to the core bit every
Yeah.
day in the nicest way. Is there anybody in the universe, and it feels like universe, it doesn't know who Optimus Prime is,
Yeah.
who doesn't know who Megatron is? Because although they have changed through the years, they're still Optimus Prime, they're still Megatron, they're still kind of known. And there's not many brands that can say that. You know, you've got one in your background there with Star Wars that probably is equal to it.
Yeah.
Marvel now has got it. Marvel in the 90s, kind of 80s, 90s didn't have. But yeah. And
Um,
it's why we're sitting talking 40 years through 40 years of Transformers and the different variations, and actually even just into the kind of comics we've got for this year shows you that there's a wide range of different comics you can do. You know, there's different, you don't have to tell just one linear story. You can do different stories throughout, whether it be here's a comic, here's, you know, we're going to do next year, but it's comic, movie, cartoon. You can do different strands of it. It doesn't need to be like it was in the 80s where it's like it all needs to be here's a G1 comic, here's a G1 cartoon, here's a G1 toy. Like it doesn't have to be it can be something slightly different.
yeah.
And that's exciting. Like you don't have if you like the comics, that's fine. Here's a cartoon. You like the cartoon, that's all right. Here's the movies. You like the movies. Oh, here's toys. And actually, here's the toys, but here's for us right now, here's Legacy, and here's also Cyberverse, and here's Masterpiece, and then you go into third party. It's just what a franchise that gives so much. But it feels as if we're talking about, we're wondering for a 40th anniversary we're talking because we are excited about it. But when we were sitting talking through this episode and going through the toys, and I genuinely have to say the last few episodes have been my favourite we've done because it has been a joy to find new toys.
Mhm.
And I've said to you, like, I definitely need to go and find some of these toys to experience it because it looks so much fun. And I feel that again this year. But I also feel real nostalgia this year with the comics. Like, I love
Yeah.
the IDW stuff. You know, some of the stuff that comes out in this year is the foundations to the material. You know, I've recently just finished my third or fourth reread of More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light. You know, those two runs of comics, the incredible Last Stand of Wreckers. IDW gave me some of my absolute favourite story arcs, and one of my favourite kind of mini series was Hearts of Steel, which comes out this year. I absolutely I love the designs of them. I just think it's another line or another comic that is not, it's G1-esque, obviously, but it doesn't have to be like, here we're setting this linear timeline. It just reinvents it in a fun way. I love little miniseries that do that kind of 4 bits and don't have to be tied in. And they give the artists, whether it be the visual artists or the writers, the chance to create something that's uniquely theirs. And IDW did that incredibly well.
Yeah, no, definitely. A lot of the things that I really liked, especially about the earlier run of IDW, not to say anything bad about the later run, because that's also superb for its own reasons. But the format they had of the mini series is that all with the exception of Hearts of Steel that told a completely separate story, but the other ones all sort of told different aspects of the same
Yes.
overarching continuity,
Yes. Yeah,
which was
yeah.
really nice. So you had things like Stormbringer that were completely space set, nothing to do with the
Yes.
stuff that was going on Earth, with the infiltration and escalation that was sort of continuing. And at this point, we're still a few years off of the main regular series. We've still got a few more miniseries to go before you have ongoing, which then bleeds into Matumti and RID and all those other bits and bobs. But yeah, it was such a great little fun way to get everybody involved, and also to produce a bunch of interesting different aspects of it without having to be a slave to an ongoing series, which
Yeah.
again I really liked and appreciated. Some great stuff, some really great storytelling, some really great art, and Yeah. Also, we did the animated movie comic at this
Yes,
point. Now,
which I love the movie. You know that.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I anything that comes out of the movie, whether it be colouring books, 73 different DVDs, I'm up for buying. But I really enjoyed this. I thought the look of this was really nice. It was a really enjoyable way to experience the movie. I know obviously the original adaptation was slightly different to the film, where that's obviously a lot closer. But am I right? They had Bob Budiansky
Yes,
come
Bob
back into this one.
Budiansky came up and wrote it. He adapted the script, which was awesome. Also, I haven't even thought about it. It's the 20th anniversary of the movie at this point.
Yeah, well, we said that last week when we had the realization
Oh,
that it was 19 years to the movie
yeah,
from
yeah.
the movie was set from the beginning. But yeah, 20 at this point, 20 years. Like I visually, sorry, cartoon wise, I do think that the movie is the best piece of Transformers media ever created. Like,
Mhm.
in a personal opinion, like it's my favorite film of all time. I've said this to humanity. I've said it on this as well. That I think the way that you should consider in my opinion, the way you should consider your favorite movie, your favorite song, your favorite video game, your favorite comic is the thing that you have went back and rewatched, played, listened to, whatever, read again the most times. I have seen Transformers the movie more than I have ever seen anything else, and I still get the same excitement thinking, going, I'm going to go and watch the movie whenever I sit down to watch it. Even if I think there are better written stories,
Mm.
that in itself means it's my favorite movie because it's the film that has given me the most joy. Same as my favorite comic series is probably More Than Meets the Eye because I've reread it more than I've done either. And actually, I've only just finished them, and I want to go reread them again. So this is a point 20 years. Incredible to think that the movie at that point was 20 years, and I just anyway.
It's yeah,
I'll do
it's
another episode about the movie at some point. Deep dive.
yes, yes. I do want to do that. We might save that for some of our next year content. Otherwise, we're never gonna ever gonna finish. Right, let's get on with the toys because otherwise we are literally
Yeah.
going to be here all night.
My suggestion would be some of these ones, especially this next bit. I would give an overarching. I would say we just give an overarch of what we're talking about,
Oh
rather
yeah,
than them all,
no,
because it's
no,
just.
no. This is a very
But
good idea.
this is a one for you because I have, until we started talking during the preamble for this, I didn't even know this thing existed. So please, Mr. Ordimus,
Very,
share
very,
what
very
this
simple.
is.
I know very little about it either, and I'm not gonna pretend otherwise. But Tactics was a figure come card game, I think, and you know the base had little numbers on it, and you fought each other in a battle game style. It wasn't necessarily action figures per se; they were fairly static. Uh, I mean, around this time, you had other things of a similar vein. You had Hero Clicks,
Oh yeah,
so it was sort of the Transformers and Star Wars equivalent. Star Wars had a range as well, and in fact, there is a crossover set in the where is it? Yeah, so the Intergalactic Showdown set there, as you can see, comes with a Omega Sentinel and one of those mini Scout Walker things from Revenge of the Sith,
Oh yeah, cool.
and Vader and is it Vader? Well, maybe
Yeah,
Vader, but oh,
there's
yeah,
only
Vader
kind of
and
Vader.
Luke. Yeah, Vader and Luke, and an Optimus and a Megatron, I guess. Yeah, so it was a bit bonkers. I fully admit I didn't have a lot to do with it. I don't even actually have that Optimus. I don't think.
There's two different
Although
Optimuses here too.
actually,
Wow.
there might even be a different one as well. But they had like weapons and missiles that
Oh,
launched,
cool.
and it was a thing. I didn't really engage with it, and I'm not sorry about that.
Nope.
Let's move on.
Over.
Tactics. Right, crossovers. There were more crossover Star Wars things. So the second Transformers line to crossover with Star Wars this year. Oh wow, I did a bad job of editing those photos together, didn't I? Brilliant. So we had a couple of different fighters that looked well, three versions of the same toy, in fact.
Yeah, three Anakin's kind of the one from Attack of the Clones. Is that right?
Yes. No. Those are all Revenge of the Sith style ships.
Okay.
Get your
Oh.
Star Wars movies right. Grief, man. Um, but yeah, so they had three vehicles that were effectively the same thing, with very similar robot modes as well. The Darth Vader one is definitely a cop out because they've already had Vader in the previous wave, and now they've got him again because people buy Vader. And there's two ARC fighters. The Palpatine shuttle I really liked. That was quite fun.
That's always a beautiful shuttle. To be fair, the Imperial shuttle,
Yeah,
gorgeous
it
as a
really is.
as a vehicle. To be fair, so
And the Darth Maul Sith Infiltrator that looks very much like Vector Prime
kind of
was
does,
also a
yeah.
really good one. I had the only one I actually had of this range was the Darth Maul fighter because Darth Maul is awesome,
Oh, that's awesome.
and nobody will ever argue me down on that one. So that was the end of the. Well, I'm skipping it. Universe continues, and they continue to churn out some mini bots, and this time they make a Superion with some actually very, very, very much akin to the G1 in terms of the colorings and look of the characters. But there's some other extra ones like Rotor. Yeah, so that's that. I'm going to skip over that. They're the mini bots that combine. They are what
Six
they are.
changers, aren't they?
The other anniversary this year is the 10-year anniversary of Beast Wars. We spoke a little bit about how that reinvigorated the line a few years ago. And now it's 10 years old, and they really released a whole bunch of special edition figures because of it. They were all redecos of original figures, with the exception of Megatron and Optimus Primal, who were redecos of Cybertron figures. They're really interesting because they come with little miniature versions of the ships from Beast Wars.
Oh, that's cool.
And both the names of the ships have just popped straight out of my brain.
The Axelon
Excellent,
and
thank you. The other one.
oh, that's going to annoy me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
If only we could use the internet to look it up, but I refuse. And the interesting thing about this line is it came with a BAF, a builder figure, which combined together created Transmutate from that one episode with the totally terrifying.
That was weird.
Really the weirdest thing. But anyway,
Yeah.
odd choice, but also the only way you were ever going to get a figure of Transmutate that looked like Transmutate.
Was it because they brought in? Well, I suppose the only one that does a lot of Transmutate. You're right. Actually.
Yeah. And then there was the Versus set that was a original version, Primal and Megatron in a different color scheme, but effectively the same figures. Nice little homage, nice little line. I don't think we actually got them officially over here. I think they were only stateside. Anyway, that was that. More alternators. Now, there's a couple I want to. Oh, there's not a couple I want to talk about in this line. When is that Ravage out?
The next again, yeah.
We've still got
Rodimus to come out at this point.
Yeah.
The Mirage, the Ford GT, is that right? I'm sure
yes.
That's a gorgeous car.
Really is.
That's been on my want list for alternators. Like I've kind of ticked off most of them. Like I got Optimus Prime and he's great. Like Optimus Prime is fairly good, I suppose. But that's a nice kind of trucky kind of version of him. I have always wanted that Mirage, that kind of one of that mold. And Ricochet, getting a black version of the Mazda RX-8, which is I do think the Shock Blast is the best version of it.
Yeah.
The Meister one was nice, and the Ricochet is a nice, kind of black as well. And then Camshaft is obviously a Omnibot, which was an interesting,
yes.
interesting add-in. And then Robar, just again the Robar mold, that Robar Swindle and Hound, wasn't it before?
Yeah. It's a really great mold, really great figure.
Does the Nemesis Prime? I can't really tell in the picture. Does the Nemesis Prime have red windscreen?
He does indeed have a red windscreen.
Shit.
To be honest, I don't think I've ever
I
seen
want
the
that.
limited one.
Well, that's good then. It's not easy one to get. I'm okay with that.
Now there is
What's
something
that?
I have missed out on this slideshow, which I'm gonna circle back to at some point, but I'm only gonna mention very, very briefly, very, very briefly now, is that there was a second line of alternators that came out in around this time in Japan, that has a, shall we say, controversial history amongst Transformers fandom, and that is Kiss players.
Yeah, yeah. But we're not really
We,
going into
we,
Japanese stuff.
we are not going to talk about them at all, but only because Optimus Prime is there and he was one of the main figures in that horrendous line. But that Optimus Prime, he's great. He's a really, really fun, chonksome bot, and I absolutely adore him.
Yeah, it's good. Alternators are great, to be fair. Like,
They
that's
really
well.
were. I got rid of all of mine. I don't know why, and I really wish I hadn't. I think it just took up too much room, and I liked them
No.
so much in car mode. And I have a bit of an issue with keeping Transformers in alt modes.
Yeah, I very little. I keep an alt mods, but these are
Mm.
it's just gorgeous alt mods. Like they really are.
Yeah, anyway. Next, more other things. So this is the start of classics. And the thing about classics is that it was the first instance of basically reimagining G1 toys and characters in a new updated style. I mean, we'd had alternators, but they didn't have really a storyline or anything else, and they weren't really updates of most of the characters. They had some odd things going on with car alt modes for non-car characters, but the first sort of few dribs and drabs of classics sort of came around at this point, and this legend class figures here, they were within that first wave. So you had Firefly, obviously off of the Legends mold of Jetfire from Cybertron, Leo Prime off of the Lion dude whose names escapes me, again off of Cybertron, and Trypticon was Scourge off of Cybertron. So just a couple of repaints there, nothing particularly exciting. And there was a reissue of the 20th anniversary Optimus Prime, but this was the 20th anniversary of the movie Optimus Prime, and he had a base that made noises, and a slightly different deco to the one that came out originally. Cleaner, brighter colors, a little bit more animated like. Very nice. But, oh, yeah.
I was gonna say, do you know? So the Soundwave one, right? So Soundwave's quite interesting because it's a Soundwave repaint of Sound Blaster.
It is.
But the really cool, interesting bit, right? So maybe about a year ago, I learned that Sound Blaster had a feature that I think it was Ravage that came with them. I can't know. It's been Rat came with them. Like, I can't remember what toy it was on originally, but whatever toy it was on originally, oh, that's gonna annoy me. It had a sticker, like you know how much of I love a Fort Max I am. Had a sticker of Fort Max that had like kind of 6 spots on him. You put him in his red chest, and it would show you what where Fort Max's weak point was.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
this commemorative edition, the rat. So as much as the Soundwave is a repaint of essentially the Sound Blaster mold, which is a retool of the Soundwave mold, the Ravage is the one from the Sound Blaster. So the actual Ravage in this has that sticker on it.
Huh.
And the day that I found this out, I was going to Greg's, and I ran into Greg's and was like, "We need to get your stuff out and find if we can find it." Couldn't find it, and I was like, "I definitely have." This was the first brand new Soundwave I got. I've multiple since. So as soon as I finished work, I came running home pretty much, got in, and that's Ravage. Isn't the Ravage I've got in display? It's in a box of spares, and I'm digging through, find it. So that Ravage is now on my Fort Max display because that's just a cool feature that was an interesting bit. But yeah, it was. I remember even getting it going, being a bit disappointed because it wasn't a G1. It's not a proper Soundwave. It's just, the chest's too big. What I first
Yeah,
read last, it was weird choice for them to do that. And obviously we've had more versions of that come out since, recently, that I've got the single chest on it. So just a weird bit, but now it's kind of cool curiosity about it.
I can't remember the exact order this happened in, but I got the Japanese reissue. There was like the book, so
Yeah.
the box of the book at the front with it. That was really cool. And that was my first non G1 Soundwave, well G1 but not original Soundwave, and I got that around about the same time that this was in Toys R Us. Now, I don't know whether it was a bit after it was released, but I always turned down getting that one, even though it came with Ravage, because I already had a Soundwave and I didn't like the big fat chest, even though it's kind of a cool feature. But I do remember turning that down on multiple occasions and do sort of regret it. It was a nice box, sort of opened up, but was the red and yellow of the classics
Mhm.
era. Anyway, let's move on to the actual first wave of classics. Now, if you were like me and you were buying your toys at the time from Sainsbury's,
Ooh, I shop
uh,
in Sainsbury's. Ooh.
the nearest supermarket to where I live, apart
Yeah.
from Morrison's, which didn't have anything at the time. Anyway, by the by, there and most places I seem to remember seeing over here, we had tons of bumblebees, loads of Rodimuses,
Yes.
an absolute crap ton of Starscream. I didn't see or hold an Astro Train for a few years after this wave had long since vanished. I don't know whether he was like ridiculously short packed or was just one of those instances where the UK just didn't get a figure in a wave.
No, and I never had Astro Train. And we'll talk a wee bit more at the end. I got the Takara one, but I definitely, I mean, Bumblebee. I remember going to Tesco's. I was going to my girlfriend's, getting to Tesco's,
Ooh, shopping
and
at
the
Tesco's.
I would Tesco's, come on. And they had Bumblebee, Rodimus, and Starscream on the pegs, and I was like, oh my god, this is back when I probably didn't know. Now you kind of know when things are going to land. These just appeared, and it was like, oh my
Yeah,
goodness. And I bought Rodimus first because Rodimus is awesome. And then I literally went up to her house, opened it, and went, "We're going back to Tesco. I'm going to go and buy the other two," and just bought the other two. I then got a Jetfire. I got a Jetfire way after. I never saw him on the shelves. I got an Optimus on the shelves. I turned down a Megatron and only just recently got one. I love that mold. It's
it's
actually so much fun. But again, probably like the laser beak. At the time, I went, no, that's not mega. No, that's stupid Nerf gun. I don't want that. And how wrong was I? Because that's such a fun mold. Like just so much fun. And you can go back to these things with the wee bit of it. Same as like I remember with the Bumblebee, I could not tell what happened to the trailer because I did not like, why do I want this trailer? Like
yeah,
this is not needed. I wish I hadn't made that decision. I still have the Bumblebee. I still think it's
yeah,
a great wee fun toy. This was a great kind of first kick into this kind of what is now something that has been ongoing since kind of in different
yeah.
iterations, but the generations bit. But some absolute crackers in there.
100. It's so much fun, and Rodimus looks like more how he did in
Yeah.
the movie than any of the official toys up until this point had looked.
Oh, 100%.
Starscream was great. I wasn't a fan of the paint job, and they did
Yeah.
release later on. They went for a more G1 kind of paint scheme with it. It looks more like one of those planes you get like an air show doing a
Yes.
display
Yeah.
rather than a warplane. Well, not the warplane's got blue and red all over it, but anyway. And the Jetfire was just stonking. He was the first Jetfire that had a sort of balanced between being Jetfire as we know Jetfire from the G1 toys, the
Yeah.
Macross Valkyrie, and Skyfire from the cartoons because he had the mask and he had the the head that was a bit more G1 cartoon-esque. I remember picking up Jetfire and Prime in John Lewis, as it turns out. I can't remember where I got Megatron, but I definitely had him, and I hated him but loved him. He was an absolutely amazing robot mode with two giant kibble wings, and the gun mode was it was fun to mess around with. So much fun. But yeah, I didn't really like the idea of making him a Nerf gun. But it was one of the last times that he was a gun.
Definitely from Hasbro's point of view, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got the masterpiece, which is obviously
There's a
Takara
legend
Hasbro.
at one point, isn't
And
there?
there's the legend one that comes out. I think is the last
one, yeah.
Hasbro. And even that is a teeny tiny gun this big as a giant orange cap on it. You don't accidentally shoot somebody with it. Bonkers, but hey, that's the world in which we live. Moving on. More.
No.
So we had the first few figures for the titanium range last year. And again, these are the 6-inch versions. We had characters starting to appear from the comics. Weirdly, even though we're entering the IDW era, they were Dreamwave characters. So we had War Within, Dreamwave, Optimus Prime. The Megatron was sort of what was he based on? Was he based on anything?
No, I didn't have any of these. Even Soundwave, I didn't have and don't have a Soundwave. He's been on my list for a while. I always wanted them. I don't know why I never ever got them. I think it's probably budgetary reasons. I can only think of the Oddimus Prime, like the Jetfire, like the Optimus. Like Optimus is one of my favorite toys of all time.
Yeah.
To know there's a version of Optimus out there I don't have is quite mad. Like, so
same here.
I could pick up some of these. I could quite happily pick up some of these.
Yeah, I've got the Optimus apart from Optimal Optimus, but I've got the War Within one. The problem I find with these figures, especially if you like to, I mean, I not particularly good at hiding it, but I will always be fiddling with a bot or a bit of a bot, even when we're recording this. But the thing with titanium figures is that they don't last very well because they're quite die cast. Well, obviously with the titanium, the plastic parts tend to rub a little bit against the metal, which means that the plastic parts sort of wear a bit, and they do get quite loose if you're a fiddler or somebody who actually plays with their toys. So for example, my War Within Optimus, he's a floppy mess. This one's quite sturdy. This one's obviously not been played with. I only just picked this up off of a good friend of mine, and this is nice and firm. Yeah,
I have to say, I think I'd like to get some of these. The Jetfire, like, is it? Because it doesn't look like Jetfire and it doesn't look like Skyfire.
It's from War Within.
Is it? Oh, yeah. Right. No, oh man. Oh, yeah, I want that. I want that. I'm going to hunt that on eBay now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what Megatron's from as well, but it's a tiny picture and I can't really remember.
Yeah, no, I think I in my head that was the two that I always went, oh, I'd kind of like them just for the fact that you kind of get the two of them.
Yeah.
Now there's a Jetfire of that, I am definitely into that.
And to accompany this wave, we had 412 teeny tiny static metal ones. There's some highlights of that line. The Ark, the first toy of the Ark, which actually looks more like the Autobot shuttle from the movie than the Ark. Also, now this is a deep cut.
This is weird, this line.
Yeah, so the deep cut with the Ark, which I didn't think of until just now, there used to be a toy in the late 70s, early 80s called Starbird, right? Which was a spaceship. It was about this big, well, about, say, 12 to 18 inches long. And it was electronic. And it was shaped exactly like that Ark.
Oh, wow,
right?
Yeah.
So it had a little round, like, gun turret on the back. I had an engine that came out the back. And it had two fighters that slotted onto its wings that you could pull off and play with, and the front sort of wedge-shaped section came off, and you could chuck the engine on the back of it and have it as a separate ship. And that arc is a dead rip-off of Starbird. It's exactly the same shape. It's got the fighters on the back. It's got the dome in the middle at the back. It's the same toy. Anyway,
this line is mental. So you've got
it is absolutely
Alternator's
mental.
toy versus the Alternator's toys versus the G1 versus the Cybertron versus the Beast Wars
Mhm.
versus the War Within.
Yep.
Like,
It's.
and then is that the first G1 Unicron? Like, because
I believe that might be the first G1 star Unicron figure.
I'm writing these down, by the way, because I am definitely on eBay after this to see how much am I spending and how much am I sleeping on the couch. They're cool. They're kind of just a funky remix. Like,
they're bonkers.
Again, so many things I just clearly have totally missed me.
I think I've got 3 or 4 versions of that Optimus Prime. It's the normal version, not the War Within version, but yeah, bonkers. They're great fun little things, and they can normally pick them up really cheap. They're just kind of fun. They had really nice packaging as well, sort of the plastic clamshell, sort of oval shape.
Oh, I think I might have that Unicron. Because I now know what you mean.
Yeah.
Now that you're saying it, I think I actually have him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's some. I don't need. I only need to buy 12 toys tonight.
Okay.
Awesome.
Finally, we have reached the end of Cybertron because it's still going, and yes, because there wasn't a main, as you may have noticed by the fact that it's literally a scattershot approach to the line this year. You had lots of little bits of lines as opposed to a full release. So Cybertron, as per most of the other series, it had its last dregs this year. So you had the, I suppose, what are the highlights? I've got a highlight in a second, but so Optimus and Megatron, Beast Wars era releases, but different. Did they have versions of them last season? Last year? I can't remember. Another version of Demolisher. He's back to being his tank mode. Cannonball, who is bonkers. It's a repaint of Red Alert in amazing sort of
does look really
cyberpunk
nice colors. I'm digging that.
It's an awesome looking figure. Override GTS, who is Override.
Yeah.
Excellion, who is a hotshot repaint. Downshift is Downshift.
Downshift looks quite nice.
It's very nice colouring. Smokescreen, who is a repaint of, I can't remember who it was last year. Optimus Prime, which is the Armada Deluxe mode with a Cyber Planet key, which I don't believe actually interacts with him in any way. He just comes with it. But I could be wrong on that. I'm sure somebody will correct me at some point. I do not own that Optimus Prime.
Dun, dun, dun.
Nor do I own that Optimus Prime Ape. I think actually these might be repaints. I think in the last year they had both of those figures as deluxe class, but they were painted as the more like the Beast Wars versions. But I could be wrong on that, and there's no way of checking. So there we go. And finally, we have Unicron.
Yeah, that Unicron looks nice. I want one of them.
Really? It's a weird tank.
I like Unicrons. Like, what a weird thing to collect, but it's just kind of funky.
Okay, I suppose he is not the weirdest Unicron that they've released.
And also, does he become that in the show? Because obviously, like at the beginning of Armada, he's a big Unicron planet. It would make me curious to watch the show to see if he does evolve.
Okay, well, you watch it and let me know. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. Again, Cybertron, these whole cartoons, I didn't really get on with them at the time, and I watched them with decreasing sort of episode count, and I haven't gone back. But one day I will. And there's some more. Legends class, we've got a repaint of Megatron as Galvatron. We've got a red hotshot that is hotshot but isn't called Excellion, even though the red hotshot in the deluxe wave is called Excellion. Optimus Prime, which is in the Galaxy Force colors, like Galaxy Force Optimus Prime, which is rather than red and blue, it's red and blacky, well, sort of grey black, but black, which is part of the last sort of phase of Cybertron. The Legends class Soundwave figure, which I'm sure you need to get hold of. The Legends class Vector Prime, which is very nice, and yeah, others. And Megatron Metroplex. They brought
I got that for a £5 at a car boot sale, and was like, "This is so much fun for £5." Had no connection to the character because I watched the show, but for a £5, I thought it was a good fun one, and I got the kind of new version cheap as well. But
yeah,
big toy.
It's an odd figure to A, have exist, and B, have had come back again as a Titan class figure.
Yeah, that's strange.
I mean, his alt mode is basically him on all fours with a giant spinny digger thing stuck to him. He is an odd figure, very strange. I am also sorry. I don't know what next year's Transformers line is going to be, but I'm gonna say now that I believe it'll be yet another continuation of let's bring out all everybody's favorite characters again, but new versions of them. I could be wrong on that. And I have said before that I'm a little bit sick of it. I love some of the models, some of the molds, and it's always nice to get new versions of older Optimus Primes. And some of the stuff is amazing, but I would just like them to do something, take a risk, do something a bit like Unicron Trilogy, have a new take on the story, have some slightly different characters that we haven't necessarily seen before, and have a storyline that isn't just another rehash of.
Well, that's an interesting matter because back then this was like their main stuff was their Cybertron or whatever, and their Generations was their kind of sideline. Whereas now it's the opposite.
It's completely flipped. I mean, even things like Earthspark, it is a new take. It's got a new storyline, but it is a sort of semi-continuation of G1, and it has mostly G1 characters. Anyway, so yeah, that's just what I would like to see. I've lost my train of thought now. Oh yes, I'm convinced though that next year's Titan will be Energon Omega Supreme, and you look unconvinced.
There's still very much a part of me just clings on to the hope of a Brave Max.
Well, I mean,
it's not going to happen.
Possible, but I mean, if you think about it, they've done some Cybertron stuff. They've done some Armada stuff, but they haven't really touched on any Energon stuff in the new redones, and they haven't had any sort of combiners for a little while. Well, they had Menasor, but they haven't had a lot of combiners, so it might be quite fun to fold Energon into the sort of legacy, whatever they want to call it, next time round, and have the combiner element of the normal bots, and then you can have a release of Optimus Prime, and you can have the Titan being Omega Supreme, and have them all combiningness. If it's not next year, it'll be soon. I'm sure, probably, maybe, and if I'm wrong, oh well. Let's see what's next. Oh yes, more Cybertron and more Minicons. It's Minicon 2-packs. It's more repaints of more Minicons, the same Minicons we've had 400 times already, but this time in slightly different colors. You can get yourself another version of the Star Saber if you buy 3 different ones, I think, and there's most of the Requiem Blaster, I think. Yeah. Anyway, that's Minicons. Yep, there's so many of them.
Too many.
Yeah, too many.
And there's no Terradive this year, so they all suck.
Some nice colours, though. I will give them
Yeah,
that.
the
There are some
thrust
nice
that
colours.
that thrust looks nice. So if you're kind of, I said
Uh,
that when we were pre-Emily, just looking at it.
yeah,
Yeah.
thrust is pretty good, and I quite like the teal on Grindor. That's pretty sweet.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Um,
agree, agree.
Now, I am gonna be completely honest. I can't remember if there's another slide or not,
There is, yep,
or whether
there
or
is.
not there
No,
is.
no, no, we're only one because we've not hit the Supreme class of the year yet, which is a beast.
Ah, yes. Thank you for not being as thick as I have been. Okay, so Scout class, we've got some more minicons that are more repaints of more minicons that have already been released. Scrap Metal is now yellow rather than red.
Yes.
Repugnus is a character that was already released in a different color. They're all repaints. They're all repaints. Let's just leave it
Yeah.
at that. Some very nice colors, but all repaints. The only new mold on this page, except for one, is Menasor, I believe.
Is that the one that Andy picked up
It
at
is the one that
TFN?
Andy from
Yeah,
Transformers the Show picked up.
never seen it. Never seen it until he picked it up, and it looks kind of funky and kind of interesting. Kind of quite like
It's
that.
uh it's madness. I love it. It's a really, really cool, utterly bonkers bot. It's so fun.
That's
Uh
Cryo Scourge looks nice as well. The colours on that look nice.
yeah, Cryoscourge is really nice. Sky Shadow I had. Because I never had the Jetfire, but I did have Cryoscourge. Not Cryoscourge, sorry, Sky Shadow. And then there's Vector Prime, but now in brown. Nemesis Breaker, as opposed to Leo Breaker, who I couldn't remember the name of earlier, in Nemesis colors. And Quick Mix is a Cement Mixer, who I think already came out, but a different color. Anyway, he's orange. Oh, and then they released Primus.
Primus
Yeah,
is Primus is fun. I've got him, but I just give him a Cybertron. Like to me, he is kind of more Cybertron. I got him second hand at TF, no, an auto assembly, and I didn't know. I knew of him, but I didn't know he came with the kind of Unicron head.
yeah, it was only
I'm
the
gutted.
first release that came out with
And
the
that,
Unicron head, or
uh,
some release in America, I forget. But yeah, there was the Unicron head.
it's
My
a
one definitely didn't have the Unicron head.
it's a kind of fun toy. Like
It's
it's Cybertron in a
I
weird way.
I
Like it's
think
okay.
I mean yeah, it looks like Cybertron, which is nice. It is significantly smaller than Unicron. So
Yeah,
people talk about the degradation of sizes in recent years, but even back then it was
yeah.
happening. And even having him in robot mode next to Unicron, he's like Unicron's little brother.
Mm.
Um, he does look. He's got a really, really nice bot mode, and he's got lots of fun play features. The Cyber Planet key thing that turns into that. What even is it? You pop all the keys in and it lights up and it goes on his chest and you can turn it round and guns and missiles and weapons go into battle mode and everything. And he's amazing. And he does have Iacon as a orange section on him, and you can see, oh look, it's Iacon. Which is nice. He is cool, but he's not as fun as Unicorn or as big. I wouldn't say disappoint. No, I will say I think I was disappointed with him when he came out. But hey, that's that. Maybe we'll get a new version of him at some point, mainline. I don't think he'd be a HasLab. And if he is a HasLab, he might be the first one that doesn't succeed.
Agree and agree.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think we are on to bots
We
of the
are. We
year.
are. And I'm up
Yes.
first and I'm excited.
Oh, good. Oh, you're actually, yes, because you can look at these on your computer.
Yeah.
Ha ha! Moth.
So I have went with this because we're not doing the Japanese. So I've cheated because I've got the Japanese version of this, which I think is a far supreme paint scheme. However, even now, I think this is a great fun toy and a great fun version of Astro Train. Triple changers are notoriously hard because you're trying to perfect 3 modes, and that's really tough. This is a really nice one. I like trains. I like space shuttles, but I do. The Japanese one with the kind of metallic purple is just it's one of my genuine favorite toys and has continually stayed on. I stupidly did let my son have it on display for a while, and there's a bit missing. Just multiple themes of that, of toys that I've let him have, but I have to always remember the toys, and he had great fun with it as well because he absolutely loves trains. So, but just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That I quick one for you because I'm just looking at the pictures, and I thought that my recollection was that we didn't get the rub signs back to reveal the shield, but this clearly is not the case because this
No,
has got rub signs. I
yeah,
genuinely thought it was a reveal the shield when that
I
kind of subline came about.
I'm gonna go back. Oh,
Because
no, I'm not. I'm gonna go forwards. Oh, I've
no,
destroyed
I
everything.
do think when you go back and look, actually now having thought about it, I do think you can kind of see them on the. I've not got any to hand to go and kind of check. They're in kind of storage those ones, but Bumblebee looks like he's got one on the top. His head, his roof. Starscream looks like he's got one in
Yeah,
his wing.
there we go.
Like I genuinely thought they reveal the shield was the first time that came back, and
Yeah,
it's funny how your brain remembers things.
it is weird because as soon as we said it, I remember them having that.
Yeah, so they are. I can clearly remember. In fact, have I got Rodimus here? Yes, I have. Excuse me, just turn it around. I can't reach him, but Rodimus does have a rub sign on his head.
Yeah,
On his, so that's so funny. I genuinely would never have remembered that. If you'd asked me when it came back, I would have said it was definitely a reveal the shield line because why
yeah.
else would you get a sub line reveal the shield? But so yeah, so Astro Train, Astro, it is just fun.
Yeah.
I think I would probably pick it up in the alternate colours. Not as I'd go and hunt for it, but see if I saw it, I think I probably would because actually it's really nice. But
So I think about Astro Train, and he's one of my favourite G1 toys. My only slight quibble with this one is it's a bullet train as opposed to a steam train, but it makes a heck of a lot
yeah,
more
I
sense
agree.
to be a bullet train than a steam train because why would you be a steam train?
Yeah. And also,
Um,
at this point, it was generations weren't perfect replicas of like Bumblebee's not perfectly.
oh no, no,
It's
no,
kind of modern versions of, but
yeah.
it's very nice modern versions of. And I agree with you. Like a steam train makes no sense. Like it doesn't.
Oh no,
But
no, no.
this is slick and nice in bullet trains and yeah.
But yeah, whereas the more recent versions of characters in Legacy and all of those other recent lines have been pretty dead on close to new versions of G1 figures
Mm.
or whatever line they're representing. The first wave of particularly the first couple of waves of classics were new takes on those characters. They were new modernized versions with modernized transformations
Yeah.
and modernized alt modes. And you know they are what they are, and they're pretty fantastic. I really really love them, and I would argue that Astro Train is a much better figure uh, as a deluxe sized toy. The
Yes.
bigger ones, the leader class size ones and stuff that have come out, they're lovely, but I like a little Astro Train.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't make a lot
I
of sense when he turns
I
into a
can't really
shuttle
call the
and
Astro Trains to be fair. I think
oh no,
I'm a big fan of Astro Train. But
yeah,
yeah, I think you're right. You're kind of yeah. I don't disagree with you.
yeah. I mean, the newer one, the most recent one is an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous figure. The Titans Returns one, not so much, but yeah, the generations, whatever. Oh, Earthrise? Was he Earthrise? I forget.
No, no, they all merge into one, don't they?
Yeah, they very much do these days. Um, yeah, but he's a big chunksome lad.
Yeah,
Looks gorgeous, absolutely amazing transformation, but I just like him a little bit smaller.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to move on to my one, which I've already spoiled by ruining the
No,
shine
it's
show.
fine.
Here we go. It's good old Jetfire. Now, he's one of the best versions of Jetfire. Not the best version of Jetfire, but he is one of my favorite. He was such a nice addition to this line. He had such a fun couple of modes. well, three modes, because you can have the plane without the battle gear on it. So I suppose you can almost count that as a non-armored mode. But you know, he takes design cues from Skyfire and the Valkyrie form Jetfire. So he's got the boosters that are more Valkyrie-esque. He's got the side guns on his helmet, which is a helmet and comes off, and he has a face underneath it. His weapon is like the double cannon that Skyfire had. But then his armor is like the Jetfire figure. He's just a really, really cool figure.
Yes.
Although I defy you to get one these days that is not almost orange.
Yeah, that's true.
My one went.
I've had two and both went like that with it.
But he's a great figure. Has a couple of fun gimmicks. The guns that pop out when you transform his jet pack, and launching missiles and all of that sort of jazz. I really like him. He's a really, really cool figure, but he does have small feet compared to the size of his calves.
Yeah, I do think he has a very good figure. And for G1 kind of Jetfires and Skyfires, we don't have that many of them. You know, I think Hasbro wise, I think your kind of Siege Jetfire's the best kind of Skyfire we've had. I think Thrilling 30s is the best Jetfire we've had, because I always kind of see them separate. This was a really good toy that, as you said, did a bit of both. Like, it had enough of both of them to kind of do it, but it then has that as a flaw because it tried to be a perfect match of both. But I remember when this first came out, I was like, this is great. This is a great fun toy. And I still think it holds up. I don't think there've been many bad ones, to be fair.
It's funny, I'm looking at him now, and there's lots of things I don't like about him that didn't bother me at the time, but now they're bothering me. Like the helmet. The helmet sticks out way too far with those. But that's because it becomes the side guns on his jet mode. So they purposely designed them that way, even though it looks stupid. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually going off him the more I look at him. So
move on, man. Move on. Let's wrap us up.
Okay, so this has been our look at the year 2006, which means next year we are going to have to dip our toes into the seemingly never-ending joy that is the Bayverse. So lots of opinions to be had there, I'm sure. Anything else you want to say about 2006? I think we pretty much talked it.
No, I do think we've covered all. I do think it is a pivotal moment in the franchise. You know, there's been multiple kind of big changes through the franchise throughout the years, but this is the kind of first real bit. As you see, this has got the year where it's got the classics coming in. You can see that change into something that has now become a stalwart of our franchise. And it's the last point before the movieverse, which, as I said, I don't think it did revive the franchise or it kept it going. I do think it helped audience-wise. You know, there are people who have never seen any cartoons but love the movies, and they certainly box office on them, you can't argue with. So a pivotal year, and it's a pivotal episode for us because we know we're going to kind of change up a little bit going to the next week's episode as we get into the 2007, because there's no way we can't, because the franchise just becomes so big and expansive, and becomes the franchise we know and love, in terms of there is genuinely something for everybody going forward. As you know, with 2 or 3 weeks ago when we first started talking, we were going like, there's like 6-7 different lines in this year, and that just continues on. We're now at the point where every single year going forward is going to have that complexity to it. And it's a good thing, because it does mean that it's very much a brand and a franchise that you don't have to like everything. You don't have to collect everything. But there will be something that really ticks your boat. There will be something that each year, I guarantee, going forward, there will be something you say, I love this, that I'm like, no, don't get it. And there'll be something that I love that you don't get. And, we're getting to the point, one thing we didn't talk about, the classics. Optimus is the first kind of point where we start to really hit third party. Third party is
Yeah,
just round the corner.
yeah.
We're not far off that third party bit kicking in, which is another kettle of fish altogether.
What's that?
Fans Project,
Fans
City
Project.
Commander,
So,
Cities,
yes, so we'll get that
Ultra
when
Magnus,
Ultra
isn't it?
Magnus is released. I think Ultra Magnus comes next year.
Freaking
So
stunning, that thing.
yeah, so
So
that
yeah,
is
so
wow.
we are really at a real pivotal point of the franchise and, as I say, of the podcast, which is really exciting. It just every week we finish this, and I sit and go. I've thoroughly, more recently than previous year weeks, where I've been like really enjoyed that. Like there's so much in it, and I'm hoping that we've always talked about the fact that you've got more of a knowledge than I have, but I'm hoping there's points where you're like, I don't know anything about this, and I'm able to expand on it with you. So that'll be a fun journey.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, with the comics and stuff, you're much more versed than I am. So don't let yourself down. You know stuff too, and I am by no means an expert. I mean, having sat chatting with Chris McFeely at
Yeah,
various
that
TFUK
that's
conferences.
a too far too hard
That,
a
that, that, well,
bar.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to be sort of somewhere a bit further up, but I can still hold a conversation with the guy. Right. So let's wrap this up. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us up until this point. If you've just dopped into this episode, there's a whole load more that you can listen to or watch. Obviously, if you listen to it, you don't have me messing up the slideshow halfway through, so that's always fun. Yeah, so please do like and subscribe and comment. We like comments. We tend to, or we try to reply to every comment if we notice them appear. So please do, and we'll have some more exciting content coming in the next few weeks, including some reviews and talking robots, and do some more shorts. That's going to be exciting. And we're also obviously continuing this until the end of the year. So next year, 2007, where we will be not talking about Transformers the movie 2007 Start of the Bayverse much. Thank you very much, Mr. Moff.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll see you or speak to you next time. Bye.
Bye.